Mr. Speaker, I rise for a motion.
The delegate has the floor.
And I'd like to speak to that motion after I make it. Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today, we adjourn in the memory and honor of the Honorable Delegate Barry D. Knight.
The delegate has the floor.
Speaking of the motion, I hope I can get through this. While we'll forever know Barry, Delegate Barry Knight, as Delegate Knight, or the Honorable Barry D. Knight, or as former chair of the Appropriations Committee, first and foremost, he was a friend, and that is how I choose to remember him. Barry's life was full of passion and hobbies. He loved flying his helicopter, and when we would go up, he would go through all the safety protocols and safety checks, regardless of whether everything was apparently just fine. During the summer, he spent time in Corova, which is an area of the beach that's all sand roads, all four-wheel drive. And we were coming up on an intersection one day, and he said, "Jay, I want you to look to the right. I'm going to look to the left. And if you see anybody coming, let me know. If not, I'm going to gun it through the intersection." And I said, "Well, why, Barry? Why don't we just pull up the intersection like normal people do and stop and look?" He goes, "I don't have any brakes." Apparently, safety protocols for aviation did not apply to vehicles in the Outer Banks. He had a beautiful home in Marathon with his cousin Rudy. He hunted and fished all over the U.S., but his favorite was bone fishing in the Bahamas. And he rode his Harley in all lower 48 states. When someone passes, you always have questions, things you wish you'd asked that person during their life. Mine would be, "Barry, have you ever been a paid actor in a Dos Equis commercial?" With his weathered face, beard, mustache, and exploits, he certainly was an interesting man. If I stopped now, you would think Barry lived a pretty comfortable life financially, perhaps in his later years, but that wasn't until he scratched and clawed his way up the ladder of life. I'll touch on that a bit more in a few minutes, but I'll simply say what I just described was about living, sharing his blessings with others, and bringing people together. He routinely had large dinners at his house in Pungo. He had an open door in Corova and Marathon, always invited people to stop by anytime, announced or unannounced. He was always ready to share a meal, cocktail, cigar, and most certainly laughter. He routinely took young kids on helicopter rides, showing them the northern beaches of the Outer Banks, showing them the remnants of old wrecks and sandbars that paralleled the shore. More than once, he medevaced an injured person to Virginia Beach, and in more unfortunate times, when someone was missing in the surf, he joined the search by air. Barry was a generous man, sharing his gifts he had been blessed with. Not long ago, I was in a duck blind with 6 other people. The 7th was in the home cooking breakfast because he was smart enough to sit in the middle of a body of water at 13 degrees. I looked around and realized that I didn't know any of these guys 3 or 4 years ago. I met them all through Barry. On a recent quail hunt, I was with a different 6 guys, and the proprietor asked, "How do y'all know each other?" We all kind of looked up and said in unison pretty much the same thing. Barry's the common denominator. We all met through him. I was on a fishing trip last year with yet a different group, and I had the same realization. I could go on. The point is, Barry had a gift of bringing people together and making friends, all predicated upon integrity, trust, and loyalty. His word was his bond. In remembering Barry, who is affectionately referred to as the mayor of Pungo, it is quintessential to understand where he came from. Barry's roots in the Commonwealth run deep, and he traced his lineage to Thomas Savage, who immigrated at age 13 as a cabin boy to Christopher Newport on the first supply mission to Jamestown in 1608. At some point, Thomas was, and I quote, "gifted to Chief Powhatan." And this is how the story goes according to Barry. A couple of Englishmen and Chief Powhatan were sitting around probably drinking corn mash brewed by Delegate Ballard's predecessors. One Englishman said, "You know, it'd be really cool if we'd take an Indian back to England." Powhatan paused, mused, and agreed that the Motaki could travel to England, but he insisted in exchange that his tribe hold an Englishman. The Englishman thought, looked around, and said, "Sure, take the cabin boy." They thought to themselves, nobody's going to miss him. But Tom, like any good farmer from Pungo, took these lemons life dealt him and made lemonade. He learned the native language and culture and became an important resource for communication in Indian-English relations. Tom lived a fruitful life and is buried at Bruton Parish Episcopal Church Cemetery in Williamsburg. Although I find this genealogy interesting, there's a reason I tell you this. Through unforeseen circumstances and unfamiliar culture and language, Tom Savage brought people with different backgrounds together. More than 350 years later, and then more than 60 miles from Jamestown, whether you're in Pungo or Richmond, Barry did the same thing through his personal, business, and public life. Barry attended Kempsville High School in Virginia Beach and earned his undergraduate, master's, and doctoral degree from the College of Life and Hard Knocks. If Barry were here now, he'd probably tell you he didn't have the best male role model in the home growing up, and acknowledged that he often wondered how the family would make ends meet. Although Barry had a devoted mother and siblings, he, in part, began fending for himself at the age of 14 when he began working odd jobs as a farmhand for Mr. Brown. After high school, he continued with farm work and supplemented his income during the summer as a long-haul truck driver. By his account, the first house he rented wasn't fit for habitation, indicating that within a month or two of him moving out, it collapsed. And I mean, it literally fell to the ground. Not bulldozed, but fell to the ground. Nevertheless, he was happy, having said, "It was a roof over my head when I needed one, and as only a budget guy could appreciate. It was cheap." All Barry knew was how to work, and he worked hard. At the age of 26, he bought his first farm. No bank would loan him money, but Mr. Brown did, because he knew Barry's work ethic and believed in him. This gives rise to my second question. I'd like to know the first name of the man who helped Barry become the person he became. Barry always, to the day he passed, referred to this man as Mr. Brown. Surely he had respect, admiration, and love for this man. And what seemed unimportant before has me curious now. As we mourn here, I'm sure they are talking hops, Harleys, and hogs in heaven. Barry went from working several jobs to one, farming, where he worked 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and half a day on Sunday for decades, until he gradually eased out of the farming business and sold much of the 640 acres of farmland he had accumulated. It was through this hog business that Barry honed his skill to haggle and negotiate. After one transaction, he was sitting at the closing table, and the buyer's lawyer looked at him and said, "Are you happy with the sale?" And Barry replied, "Well, it's not exactly what I was expecting, but yes, I'm happy." What he didn't say out loud was that the purchase price was exactly 2 times more than what he would have accepted. Barry brought his craftiness and life experiences to the House of Delegates in 2009, becoming chair of the House Appropriations from 2022 to 2024, and has received accolades from governors, former chairs of appropriation, and others as having masterful knowledge of and skillfully crafting Virginia's billion-dollar budget. Leading one executive of a Fortune 500 company to observe that in the financial sector, companies typically focus on numbers, but that Barry focused on strategy. I could go on about Barry's contributions to Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Hampton Roads, and the Commonwealth. The roads, bridges, mergers, and buildings that all have his fingerprints. But what I admire and care for the most about Barry is his friendship and his devotion to family. Barry, in his words, married his one love and beautiful wife, Paula. Together they raised 3 boys, Hunter, Kyle, and Forrest, all 3 of whom I have the pleasure of knowing, all of whom are fine men, and who have the same and have started a new generation of knights, and whose values mirror Barry and Paula's faith, integrity, loyalty, and work ethic. Meaningful relationships, whether it's with a spouse, a child, a family member, a neighbor, or a colleague, require time and effort. I think we all try to build those relationships, but it just comes natural to some people. Their personality is infectious, and their bandwidth to interact with others is limitless. Barry was one of these people. Although I call Barry one of my best friends, for me that probably describes a group of maybe a handful of people. But Barry had dozens, if not 100 or more, best friends. He just had a gift. He was the one person who could tell a clean joke, make people laugh, as much the 20th time as he told it as he did the first time he told it. His jokes were so corny, but he became so excited and tickled with himself, you start laughing before he ever got to the punchline. Barry and I started out as 2 guys in the same party representing portions of Chesapeake. We got to know each other, had little as caucus members, and later served on the same committee. These things led to many conversations, which led to hanging out and socializing together. Without even realizing it, we became friends. We hunted, fished, and carried on like guys do. You know, a little bit of machoism. And one day, one of us used the F word. You know, the thing guys have a hard time talking about. We talked about our faith. And Barry was a man of faith. He is a believer, and he knew Christ as a Savior. And while his family lost a husband, father, and brother, the Commonwealth lost a phenomenal and effective leader, and countless people lost a friend, I know he's in a better place, free of pain and the troubles of this world. He has a new set of friends in heaven, all of whom, no doubt, will enjoy his company and laugh at the same corny jokes we laughed at. Mr. Speaker, before I yield the floor to the delegate from Richmond City, Delegate McQuinn, a final thought. I find solace in a passage penned by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German pastor and theologian. No one has yet believed in God and the kingdom of God. No one has yet heard about the realm of the resurrected, not been homesick from that hour, waiting and looking forward joyfully to being released from bodily existence. That life only really begins when it ends here on earth, that all that is here is only the prologue. So to my friend, everyone's friend, I say ting-a-ling and Godspeed, my good friend.